Sheila. You are a new addition, well, not so new anymore, but you are a relatively new addition to the Maelor Forest Nurseries team. Can you tell the audience a bit about yourself, like where you started and what's led you to Maelor today?
Great. So I'm a botanist by training, originally from South Africa, which is where I first gained some experience about plant tissue culture, largely in the ornamental industry. I then moved to England, where I led a research program on tree seed and seedling research at Forest Research. And this covered everything from upgrading seed lots to coating seeds to stratifying seeds, etc. So as a green-fingered innovator, when I spotted the advert for this role as Science R&D Manager at Maelor, I was very, very excited because it not only enables me to use both skill sets in seeds and plant tissue culture, but also to do innovative research, which will be a game changer for the industry.
So tell us about some of the things you're doing right now for Maelor.
I'm currently involved in scaling up production in our somatic immunogenesis lab, which uses an advanced vegetative technique in order to produce thousands and thousands of clones from a single seed. And there's several advantages to this. It not only reduces the length of the breeding cycle, but it also means that your genetic gains, whether that's straightness or stiffness or form, are realized more quickly in the field. It's a very complex process and it's very labor intensive. So my challenge right now is to try and automate the process, whether that's using bioreactors or robotics, to reduce our inputs and also scale up our production.
Wow.
It's quite a steep learning curve. So there will be a series of technical issues that might be around the environment of bioreactors, contamination, for instance, and that means that there'll be a lot of trial and error to optimize the process for our system.
Well, tell us a bit about some of the challenges that you're finding at the moment in like your day-to-day job role in terms of what you're doing.
I think the challenges are mostly technical challenges. It's to do with bringing aboard new techniques. And for instance, if we're looking at bioreactors, we're looking at how we're going to sterilize the bioreactors because they're quite prone to contamination. It means looking at how we put our cultures into the bioreactors, how we adjust the environment within those bioreactors, the nutrients, the pH, the light, etc., in order to optimize the process.
What are your long-term goals? Where do you want to be in the next, say, 10 years with the work you're doing?
I think that the long-term plan is to increase production of our emblings to a stage where we can replace some of our traditional vegetative propagation by cuttings. And there's some benefits to that. So firstly, because the current way of traditional vegetative propagation by cuttings is quite a long process. It takes several years in order to get from a single seed to a stock plant to a stock hedge to cuttings. That's probably in the region of several years. And in contrast, the process we use in the lab is a lot shorter. So when we take a single seed and initiate in the lab and form our cultures, which we then germinate, that's about a year to 2 years. So it's probably about 3 to 4 times shorter than the traditional vegetative propagation technique. And the big advantage is that you can introduce new material very, very quickly. Every single year, you could have a new cross, a new full cross online, basically. But you could also introduce hybrids, which is something that we're looking at.
Fantastic. It's quite exciting, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. It's very exciting. And is Maelor the only nursery actually doing this in the UK at the moment?
As far as I'm aware, Maelor is the only forestry nursery doing this in the UK. So we are at the cutting edge of plant tissue culture.
And is this just purely for Sitka spruce?
No, we also have some hybrids. We have a hybrid Sitka white spruce online at the moment, and we're possibly looking at various other species and various other crosses as well.
Okay, and is there any of this available to buy for people at the moment, or are we not at that stage yet?
I think that we're at the stage where people can buy cuttings from our emblings following the traditional vegetative propagation route, but when we scale up over the next few years, we hope that people can buy an embling that has been lined out for a year in a similar way that they buy a cutting. So
how long till we actually know what the future quality of the work you're doing? So the outcomes of the trees at a certain age?
There's evidence that somatic embryogenesis, somatic emblings perform very well in the field. We're busy setting up trials, so it'll probably be a few years before we see the outcome. But there's no reason why they shouldn't perform as well, if not better, than traditional vegetative propagation by cuttings. We have the benefit not only of the faster genetic gains from the veg prop route, but we also have the advantage of the form of a seedling. So we got two advantages.
What I would like to ask you, Sheila, is what is the favourite part of your job role?
I think the favourite part is I've got a great team. They really are enthusiastic and they've embraced all the changes that I've brought to the lab since I arrived a few months ago. And without them fully on board, it would be very, very difficult to move forward, particularly at pace. So that's really great. But I'm also in a very lucky position to be in a role that I'm in where I can do cutting edge research that's going to make a real difference to the industry.
That's amazing. And has this got any connection to climate change, what you're doing?
Yes, in some respects it does. It means that because of a technique, we can select potential hybrids that might be drought resistant, for instance, or disease resistant. And because there's a shorter turnaround time, it means that we can get them out into the field quicker than any other method. So yes, there are a lot of advantages to this technique.